All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is April 14th. We're going to be talking about transfer portal opening up tomorrow, I believe. The NCAA made some rule changes for official visits, so how is that going to affect recruits in Oklahoma? Going to be a slightly shorter episode today. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, comment, check out Spotify, all that jazz. Brum's spiel. We're having it. He's not here today. Had to do real life stuff today, so just me and Brandon. We'll get into it. So transfer portal, like I mentioned, opens up on the 15th, I believe, and there's a guy from the University of Texas already made his intentions known about entering the transfer portal. Brennan Thompson. He was part of the 2022 class, top 150 player. Out of high school, Oklahoma was not recruiting him very hard, if at all, really. We were doing a little bit of a dive into his profile on 247. Oklahoma State was one of his top schools, made it to his final three before ultimately choosing Texas. Jay Valai, I know something that you mentioned, Brandon. So, credit to you. Jay Valai was one of his biggest recruiters while he was at Alabama. So Oklahoma's in a position to potentially get him from the portal if they do find a need for a receiver. What do you think about Brennan Thompson? And, could Oklahoma lose one or two guys in this transfer portal?
So with Brennan Thompson first, well, he's doing research on him. He's from the Panhandle of Texas. They said he's closer to the Oklahoma schools than the in-state Texas schools that he was receiving offers from, Texas and A&M, both of those schools. So Oklahoma's closer. It came down to Texas, A&M, and Oklahoma State. But when we were talking about him, it sounds like Oklahoma didn't even really recruit him very hard at the time, because at the time of 2022, during his big recruitment hours, I guess, we had Talon Shetron committed. We had, I forgot the whole list that we went through. Luther Burden, yeah. Like there were some dudes on campus at receiver. So I feel like we didn't really try to recruit him very hard. And then Lincoln left, and everything went to hell in a handbasket with some of those receiver recruits. But they finished the class strong. But Alabama was in the top five, and you mentioned Jay Valai. He was a big recruiter there. So hopefully that connection is still there if Oklahoma wants it. Brennan Thompson's a talented kid. He played in 9 games as a freshman. Granted, he only caught 1 pass, but I mean, as a freshman, it's tough. I think that he made 9 appearances says a lot about his ability. He had, you named the school he was offered originally coming out of high school. He's a really fast kid. Won some track state titles down there in Texas. I think he would be a huge addition to the receiving corps. I don't know. I mean, it came down to A&M, Oklahoma State, and obviously Texas. So I don't know if he's going to be going to, logically you would think his first visits would be to A&M and Oklahoma State, right?
You would think so, but Oklahoma State and A&M have had quite a bit of change in the last couple of years with the offensive side of the ball. A&M getting a new offensive coordinator this last go around, so maybe that helps their chances. Oklahoma State, they're a shit show down there.
With Oklahoma State, and I know I say shit about them all the time because I genuinely hate the school, but without being biased at all, I don't know how you can be a high-level offensive recruit and want to go there and play for Casey Dunn. If you watch that Oklahoma State offense, it's the most predictable, boring. It's awful. Like, simply put, it was a terrible offense. They ran. I've never seen a school run so many receiver screens or middle screens, or it could be 3rd and 13, and they're going to call a receiver screen for 4 yards. Like it seemed so predictable. And Oklahoma State fans complained about Casey Dunn and his play calling. So this is not just a totally me hating Oklahoma State thing. It seems genuine that Casey Dunn's ability is at least in question in Stillwater.
Dude, and they made Oklahoma's defense look like they were actually really good last year. And by the time we played Oklahoma State, it was definitely better than it was at the beginning of the year, but it wasn't good. I think it's fair to say Oklahoma's defense wasn't even average last year. They had their moments, but boy, that Bedlam game made us look like it was going to be the future is bright, top 30 defense on the horizon, and it could be. I'm not saying it's not, but it definitely made us look a lot better than they actually were throughout the year.
They had 1 touchdown all game, right?
Dude, it was CJ. Yeah, CJ ended up 2 picks, I think. And probably could have had 2 or 3 more, because you could kind of tell where the ball was going every single time. And if for some reason Gundy just stuck with his guns and didn't really make any changes to the staff, the only change was Derek Mason left. It wasn't like he got canned. He
which is
just
bad for
decided to step
their
away.
defense is actually somewhat competent.
Yep. So it really doesn't seem like an ideal place. I wouldn't. You would assume Oklahoma State's not really in it because of what you said. Why go there when their offense seems to be very elementary? Even high school teams probably wouldn't run something that basic. So hopefully that Jay Valai connection that you mentioned is still there. And if Oklahoma does need one, because his speed is what kind of separates him from the pack. He is very fast. And if is there a spot for him? Like,
I think if he goes to Oklahoma and he learns the playbook quick enough, I think he has the speed and stuff. It's a spot where I think you really only have like two guys. Drake Stoops is solidified. He's gonna play. He's gonna be that guy. And you got Jalil Farouk, who's gonna play. Outside of that, you have your assumptions. You would think Jaden Gibson is finally gonna play. You think maybe Nick Anderson. He had a pretty good bowl game. We obviously very high on Jaquez Petaway. Javian Hester's still there. Elby Bunkley Shelton, they're year two now. So you have some guys that you think could make the jump. But I mean, outside of Stoops and Farouk, it's really it's a pretty wide open room.
Yeah, and I mean Gavin Freeman, I think it would be the closest thing to what Brandon Thompson would bring to this team with the speed that both of those guys have. So it really is just a matter of do the coaches feel like there's a need to bring in another body at wide receiver? So definitely a name to look out for there. I know it's been reported by a few other platforms, so clearly that part's just regurgitating the information. But Brennan Thompson is very talented, and it really just would come down to, will Oklahoma need another guy? Do they lose a guy? Like, this transfer portal isn't just a one-way street. Oklahoma might bring someone in, but there's a very good chance that they might lose someone. I know it was rumored a couple months back, could be a DB that might leave the program. So is that something like, does a spot open up for a transfer defensive back? There's going to be this transfer portal is only open for 2 weeks. It ends at the end of the month. So anything that happens here is going to happen extremely fast. So we'll definitely be on top of it, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with OU, if at all, if anything even happens. Like, this could just be like, this is a name to watch, but OU might not do anything with it at all.
Yeah, that'll be fun to watch next couple weeks, though. Sure, we'll be talking a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then next topic. So the NCAA passed a rule change with how they handle official visits. Really benefits the players. Kind of weird saying that the NCAA is doing something to help the players this time around, but starting July 1st, players will no longer be limited to 5 official visits. They will have an unlimited amount. They could take Brandon's advice and go take a summer full of vacations to the nicest campuses around the country and not really give them any attention, just take the free vacay with their family and leave. But now it also makes it so that schools are going to be in a little bit of a predicament here. They got to change their strategy because, as we've mentioned multiple times on the show, especially over the last few weeks, kids have been, bringing their list down to top 10s, top 11s, top 12s, and some of them go down to top 5s. And top 10s, 11s, 12s, there's still a lot of room there for a school to fight because kids originally were only getting 5 official visits. Now kids might wait to take their official visits until July, anything past July 1st, and take 10. But what schools are going to be, how schools handle this is going to be interesting because they are still limited to a certain amount. And financially, like, giving official visits is not a cheap thing for schools either. So it's going to be a lot more methodical. At this point, from my perspective, if Oklahoma offers a kid an official visit, it's going to be because they are very confident in the position that they're in with that player and they like what that he would bring to the team. What are your thoughts on this rule change? And do you really think that it's going to change anything for Oklahoma or really any program around the country?
I mean, I think a little bit. It's interesting because, granted, they used to only have 5 official visits, but they can go on official visits to a program multiple times. You can go on 2 officials to Oklahoma, 2 officials to Alabama. Was that not how it was?
You only got one, so.
Okay, well, never mind. So, yeah, it's different. It's going to change the way that we talk about recruiting because we always say follow the officials because, it had been if you make an official visit, you could safely assume you're in a top 5, whereas that's no longer the case anymore. I mean, I genuinely, if I was a recruit, I would go to Miami, I would go to Hawaii, I would go just all the fun places because you're not losing anything. So that's going to be different. But I think, yeah, with schools, like you said, you're not going to financially, it doesn't make any sense now to offer these official visits unless you have a very strong inkling that this kid is very, very serious about your program, about your university, about what's happening. Because, yeah, it's not, like you mentioned, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not cheap to do this stuff. So I think, I mean, if these schools offer an official visit, they're serious. They're probably more serious than they have been in the past. But that doesn't mean that the player is. So it's going to be tricky following this, but it's exciting, and it is very, very good for the players. I don't know how great it is for the institutions.
Yeah, the players, and especially the top-ranked players. I mean, thinking about one specific example that Oklahoma, I think it's still fair to say that they're in a very good position to get his commitment is David Stone. He's taking a lot of visits right now, all of them unofficial, so that's all out of his family's dime. But if he really wants to extend, and guys rated as high as David Stone want to extend their recruitment cycle, they could wait until after July 1st, take 10 official visits, because every program is going to take his commitment regardless of when he makes that decision. He could take official visits all the way up until December, till National Signing Day. And the programs will be more than happy to do it for him. And he might, I mean, I don't think that many players will actually take advantage take these vacations like we're saying, but
you can go on a whole summer vacation and get.
Yeah, but there's going to be probably a couple guys that do that and think of it like that, because they might be very open to all these schools, and they might also just be thinking, I'm one of the best players in the country, and these schools are going to take my commitment regardless. So if I have a little extra time, if I have a few days where I'm not doing shit, Miami, do you have some time?
Go on an OV to Hawaii, which, I mean, do you think schools like Hawaii are going to even offer official visits to the, I mean,
Hawaii
offer a 5-star kid an official visit now because they'll take it. And I mean, you have to know they're vacationing too.
Yeah, the University of Hawaii is interesting. I mean, the time zone change, the travel, and the facilities just aren't up to par with what pretty much everyone else around the country can offer. But if they were to ever elevate that to that level, then yeah, I think Hawaii is going to be in a very good position to be offering a lot of official visits. But that's a what if scenario. You're going to see. I would think that you would really look at, now as fans, we would look at official visits from the school perspective, not from the player perspective anymore. Because like we said, top fives are really what kind of taking official visits, kids going to a school on an official, kind of gave you their hand, showed you, all right, we're a school that he's seriously considering going to. Now that's not the case. Now it's the other way around. Now it's this player is one that Oklahoma, or whatever fandom you're part of, this is a kid that Oklahoma feels really good about getting his commitment. It's kind of the other way around. It's going to be a lot harder to follow the visits. I think it's still the case because a guy like David Stone is probably going to be, or most kids are going to go to schools that they visited a lot of times, but official visits aren't going to have the same weight that they did pre-July.
I don't know. I still think it holds a pretty good amount of weight. Because, like we talked about, it's going to take a lot for schools to offer it now. So it's still going to be showing their hand a little bit, because if Oklahoma, if Sammy Brown comes on an official visit July 8th, I think we'll be like, holy shit. I mean, that means Oklahoma really feels they have a very, very strong chance with Brown. Whereas, that's just a kid that we talk about that I think now with the new rules, if he does end up taking an OV post July 1, I think that's when we can really start to talk about the idea of, holy shit, maybe he actually is coming to Oklahoma, because they know something if they're offering an OV. So I think that in a sense, it might actually help us follow this recruiting. It might make it a little easier with kids like that who we don't really feel like, it's a great shot. But I mean, if they're taking an OV now, that means the school feels pretty confident.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like it's a secret. Last cycle, Oklahoma was running thin on official visits towards the end of the recruiting cycle, and some players that did end up committing to OU didn't get official visits. I don't think Jackson Arnold actually took an official visit Peyton Bowen didn't ever actually take an official visit. So the this year, I would assume they would probably take a little bit more of a methodical approach, just by nature, because of how low they were running on those visits. But like you said, now it does give you a better idea of like, all right, the staff thinks that there's a real shot at getting a guy like a Sammy Brown, where maybe we were second or third on in the running, and now if Oklahoma feels like they can get him, you're gonna see them
That's
extend that.
another thing that I think comes to mind just in this class. I mean, if Kobe Black's taking a post July 1 official visit, it'll be telling. I don't know. For that part of it, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how many post July 1 OVs we get. I think that'll make for a good conversation on the show.
And it definitely brings, maybe it does bring a little bit of clarity, right? Because then people are probably going to start making edits like, I got an offer to take an official visit to X school, because schools are going to be a little bit more reserved. I mean, they were already pretty limited pre this rule happening, but now there's definitely got to be I would assume that there's a change on how they view official visits and extending those offers, because they are going to be a little bit more, I guess, I can't find the word, but you can't just kind of give them to everyone that you're serious about wanting at your school, and then you got to be serious about where your position is and their recruitment overall.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
So that's really all the football topics that we had today. I know you wanted to shout out the gymnastics program. You have a better idea of where they were sitting because you were
Gym, they're competing in the national championships. I think the semifinals tonight. Top 2 advance. So go them. I'm sure they'll advance. I'm sure they'll end up winning it. Them and softball are pretty much a lock almost at this point. It feels like they win it every year. But good luck to all them competing tonight.
Big facts. You know what? I know what I said. We might not talk about it, but I feel like it's an interesting topic. Porter Moser and the basketball team, if half the roster's in the transfer portal or graduated or is going to the NBA, or testing out possibility of going to the NBA. And there is a guy from ORU in the transfer portal, Max Abrams. Can't remember his last name, but he is down to Texas and Kansas State. They're apparently the front runners for his commitment out of the transfer portal. He's been at ORU the last 4 years. You would assume that Oklahoma would have tried hard, and I'm not saying they didn't, but kind of be in a better position to get his commitment, especially over Kansas State. And he is from Dallas, so maybe there's some ties there to the UT program. But can Oklahoma ever be a good basketball program consistently? There's times where you kind of just hit the jackpot and you got a really good year and a good group of guys. But do you think that Porter Moser is actually going to bring this team to be in contention to anything important in college basketball?
I don't know. I'd have to go because, I mean, he obviously showed he could do it. He was consistently winning at Loyola. So that's what had us all hopeful when he made the move to Oklahoma. You thought everything would be easier at Oklahoma. Recruiting's going to be easier, winning games. I mean, you thought everything would be easier because he's playing at a bigger school, be able to recruit at a higher level, win bigger games, get it done. But he went to, a Final Four at Loyola? Elite Eight at least. I mean, he had a couple of really, really good teams there. And I always, for the past couple seasons, have gone to defend him because when Lonnie retired – year one for him, a bunch of those kids transferred out. Emoja Gibson, he's the only kind of right now, but a bunch of kids transferred out. You lost Elijah Harkless. A lot of kids left. So we had to rebuild. So, year one, you don't really count it. And then for whatever reason, year two, everybody left. And then this year, the same thing's happening. It seems like everybody, Jacob Groves in the portal, Jalen Hill's in the portal. It seems like the team's having to restart all over again. So he's been at Oklahoma for 3 seasons and he's gonna have to restart 3 times, which is brutal. So I don't know how much of that is on him. But I mean, this year he's losing a lot of kids that had been there under him for a while. Bijan Cortez, Jalen Hill, Jacob Groves, all those guys played 2 seasons with him, and now they are deciding, this isn't it. I'm out. So that's a little concerning, I think. But I mean, I don't know how long it took him to build that Loyola program. I imagine more than 2 or 3 years. But here's the deal at Oklahoma. So the expectations, I think, are a little higher. You're not going to have the time maybe that he had at Loyola to build the program all the way up. I genuinely think if we have another season in basketball like we did this year, he'll at least be very seriously on the hot seat, if not gone. So I don't know. I still think he can do it. He showed he can do it, because if you can win at Loyola, at the end of the day, you can win at Oklahoma. It's a matter of time. I don't know that he's going to be allowed that time at Oklahoma, just because the fans are tired of not making the tournament. This team wasn't even an NIT team this year. That ain't it.
Yeah, I think that's really my biggest disappointment. Like, I'm not gonna pretend and say like I watch every single OU basketball game, because I don't. Like, and it's probably because the team wasn't very good. It was kind of frustrating to watch what I did. But you weren't even a team that was competing for the loser bracket of a basketball tournament. You didn't even get to that point. You were pretty bad. Like,
Yeah.
the improvement alone for next year just has to be at least compete for the NIT. If he can get to the March Madness tournament, then he probably bought himself another 2 years, because then at least you're showing that I'm making progress. And it is harder to build it sustaining success up in a basketball or for basketball, because kids can leave pretty quickly to the NBA. Transfer portal is always there, and there's more limited spots, so they'll always. It seems like kids are always looking for a way to upgrade, but you also have the opportunity to bring in people from the transfer portal that can positively affect the team, and he hasn't done that. I think that, from my perspective, that's really the biggest thing. The guys he's brought in from the transfer portal have really not contributed to the level to make the program better. Yeah, you got your one guy, but he hasn't brought in a group.
Yeah.
To ultimately make the team better. If anything, the team's actually gotten worse every year he's been a coach.
They have. But with the team right now, he's got a nucleus of Sherfield, Milos Uzan, who I think is going to be a stud. I think he had a really good freshman year in Owe. I can't remember his first name. He was also a freshman, also had a pretty good year. I think those are your three to build around. But, you're going to have to start all over again in the transfer portal. So I don't know how much to expect from this team moving forward, at least for a while. It's a restart again, and it hasn't been working. So we'll see. I don't know if there's any reason to believe next year will be different, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be. Hopefully, there's improvements. There's definitely also a thing. I agree that he should be able to win at Oklahoma, since he showed success at Loyola. We also got to look at it like, if you compare the fandom between football, softball, and basketball, I would say that basketball probably ranks third amongst Oklahoma fans. And it's football is football, softball is winning a ton, so it's hard to say that there's not a ton of fans for them. But basketball is one of the biggest sports in the country, or in the world, really, and no one really. If you compare the fan bases, basketball is not really up there. Women's basketball isn't even getting the attention they should, and they won a Big 12 championship. I think overall, there just maybe the school needs to make a bigger investment into the basketball programs. All these NIL collectives can start helping out, because NIL is probably a huge component with basketball players, since they can just easily leave to the NBA or professional programs overseas where they can get paid more money. So that's probably going to be a thing that Oklahoma's got to look into. How can we get more money invested into the program itself, and how can we get these collectives to invest more money in the players?
I agree. I don't know. Last time Oklahoma basketball was really, really fun is when we were in college. We had a Final Four run, and then the arena was different then. It looked like we were diehard basketball fans at OU then. I remember, there was lines to get in to watch that team with Buddy Hield and stuff, but
game day was there for a Kansas game.
It was awesome. It was a really fun year, and that team should have won it all. That was a great year for Oklahoma sports, or could have been a great year. I think we should have won the title in men's basketball the year. We definitely should have won the title in football. It was the same year. It's just it's hard to look back on that season.
It's fair to say that I think we're both glad we're not currently students with the state of the sports programs outside of softball. Softball has been dominant since we were in school as well, but football and basketball are rough goings these last few years.
I think football is going to be up for a huge jump this season. Obviously that's not saying a lot, but I think it's going to be noticeable. especially defensively. Yeah, look at that. That defense is on paper good. We'll see how it turns out.
Agreed. Well, that's everything for this episode. Like I said, it was going to be a shorter one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Brandon, do you have an end of video challenge for the people?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll just keep it simple here. We'll talk about, what do you guys think about a kid can visit anywhere one time officially? Because it's definitely a pro player. Jose and I talked about going on vacations. That's definitely what I would at least try to do. There's no way I'm not taking advantage of that if I'm good enough. And then with Porter Moser, do you guys think he needs 1 or 2 more years, or is it time to move on?
All right, make sure to participate in the comment section. We are doing a ticket giveaway again this year, like we did last year for the spring game. It will be posted on Twitter, so make sure to go check it out there. We're gonna give away 10 tickets, probably just split them up in 2, so 5 pairs of tickets. We'll announce the winners sometime next week, probably on the Wednesday video. So make sure to check it out, and hopefully you guys can win some, just to show our appreciation for all of you guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok if you're into that. And then if you like listening to podcasts, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure to go check it out there and rate the show. We appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you next time.